Get the Friendo Club set up today and get access to over 700 Going In Raw bonus episodes, our monthly Big Blue predictions challenges, and the ability to ask questions at Going In Raw. We also offer the Steven Larson comic book and exclusive Friendo Club t-shirt. Just hit join here at youtube.com/Steven Larson or go to patreon.com/Steven Larson to sign up. Hey, friendo, Steve here.
Hey, Larson.
Welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to. It's WrestleMania week, so it's time for a batch of WrestleMania hot takes from the friendos. Because it's Wednesday, of course, we're going to be doing our live watch-along, live review, WrestleMania Night 1, WrestleMania Night 2. We got the predictions challenge. You guys know about it. Click on join or go to patreon.com/Steven Larson. Click on the Friendo Club setup to get in on the action right here. Signature Series WWE Shop bootleg. Can't get this in the shop. It's the bootleg. Get it from Pakistan on eBay. But it's a replica bootleg of the Signature Series CM Punk title, Larson. This is the official bootleg of the official.
Again, I feel like that's an oxymoron. I don't know if you can have an official bootleg.
Have you ever noticed that when you say something, it kind of makes me want to contradict that thing? Last time you said we shouldn't be referring to it as a Signature Series title. So what do, Larson?
How long have I known you?
Way too long.
I'm aware of little things you do, that being one of them.
All right, man, let's go ahead and dive into these hot takes. First up from Word Life Fan 9 says Seth Rollins is the most logical winner of the triple threat, and anyone who says Punk needs to win or should get into the Cena-Cody match is coping hard. I don't think he's talking about Edge.
No, I'm not talking about Adam Copeland. No. Seth's argument is I need to save pro wrestling from the part-timers and the people that are trying to, use the industry for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, by that logic, yeah, it makes sense for him to win because you don't want to make a liar out of him.
I mean, if you accept his premise.
Of course, you have to accept his premise. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. If that's the case, if you believe that WWE needs to be saved from their most popular member of the roster, CM Punk.
Members? I mean, Roman's mid-carder in terms of popularity.
He's pretty popular. Although it feels like, and I know it's basically to drive a wedge and to play mind games, but Seth Rollins continually trying to convince Roman of this is an interesting wrinkle as well. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on if you agree with the visionary in the first place.
Yeah.
If you think that WWE would be better served by the workhorse types like Seth Rollins, a little bit younger than the CM Punk types, who, and I'll be honest with you, CM Punk, since his return, it's not like he's been presented as a part-time guy. Obviously, he had the injury, but barring that, and I know he's not like a Chad Gable or El Grande Americano or whatever, or Finn Balor, who they actually wrestle quite a bit on television week to week. Yeah. Punk does not.
No.
But he still comes off as a guy who's there about the company, on good behavior. So I don't know. There's a little bit of a muddiness in Seth Rollins' message, I feel.
Yeah, but I guess if Seth is looking at it from the perspective of the scope of Punk's career, the last couple of years is I don't know, a tenth of Punk's career as a professional wrestler, maybe less than that.
Sure.
So I guess Seth could make the case, well, Punk has to be on good behavior. This is his last chance.
I feel like if Seth made a more convincing argument, because look, I like what Seth has to say. I think it's pretty interesting. I think
you're receptive to his message then.
I am, but all them dudes and gals out in the audience who are chanting CM Punk, I don't think the message is getting through to the broader audience, is my point.
So what can Seth do during the course of this match, even if he takes the L, to get the win in terms of presenting Roman and Punk as he sees them?
Ooh, wow.
So even if he doesn't win the match, he loses the battle but wins the war, so to say,
I mean, I don't know. I feel like even if he tried something like along the lines of Bray Wyatt trying to sucker John Cena into being a bad guy, people are going to cheer Punk regardless. Punk could do whatever he wants in that match. He could be, because it's a triple threat, no DQ, so you could look at it as him just being opportunistic, which in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad guy thing. It's, hey, this guy's up against the two members of the Shield, the two best members of the Shield.
Yeah.
The
two really good members of the Shield.
The two actually good members of the Shield.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Whoa. We're forgetting about Kurt Angle.
That's right. That's right.
And Triple H. Why did they do a video package on Triple H's time in the Shield?
That's a good question.
They should have done a Triple H video package on Survivor Series 2017. Oh, man.
Oh, gosh. That'd been just for you.
Yeah, it'd have been amazing. I should do one of those. Anyways, yeah, I don't know what he can do. I get the feeling that, here's the thing, this is a message for Seth Rollins by Seth Rollins, and I feel like Seth Rollins is not going to get this message across. He's going to lose the match, and he's going to go bad guy. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, probably, but it makes a lot of sense. I think it does make a lot of sense for Seth to walk out of WrestleMania with the win. Man, how many times have we said sorry, Seth? How many times has it been a situation where it's sorry, Seth?
I think, yeah, logically speaking, he should. I agree with this hot take. Logically speaking, he should win. I mean,
Punk doesn't need to win. He got his main event at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I agree.
That's accomplished. He doesn't need to be in Cena, Cody. The only reason I even brought that up was because that's what he seemed to be inferring. Obviously, wasn't the case.
It really did. I mean, look, there was a lot of people on the same page with us on that one, but instead it was just. Yeah, I'm going to be in the main event, and then they just wrote it in there. So there you go. He got what he wanted.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
If that wasn't his initial favor, right?
Yeah.
Being in the main event, then the assumption is that Heyman put it in there, so whatever the favor was going to be, CM Punk wouldn't bother with it because he got the main event.
Yeah, I think that's a yeah.
What if that's not the case?
Okay, what would be the alternative then?
I don't know. I was thinking about that today. I was like, all right, if this wasn't like a preemptive clause in the contract that was put in there to try to make Punk happy so that he would be, I'm not worried about the actual favor I want because I got the main event. Then what else? How else is it the main event? Simply because it's Roman?
Yeah.
Roman gets the main event?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know exactly what order this happened in, but if Paul Heyman happened to hear Triple H, talk shit to the IWC about wanting to see the women's world title in the main event, Paul Heyman's like, oh, okay, well, clearly we're going to main event then. I mean, you look at the star power in Roman Reigns' record in the main event of WrestleMania, like that alone. It doesn't matter who Roman's in there. It could have been Roman versus Solo would have main evented because it's Roman Reigns. That's just what he does. He main events.
I don't know if Roman versus Solo would have main evented. No, I don't think so.
I mean, okay, let's look back on his previous main events, like Brock main events caliber, obviously. Cody main event caliber, obviously.
Yeah, Undertaker was supposed to be his last match. Yeah,
right.
Triple H for the title.
Triple H for the title. Yeah, I mean, look, they're all. I get you. I'm just saying, Roman Reigns. At that point, we got 10 main events or 9, whatever it is.
Yeah,
you're going to be the main event guy, even if you got a sack of potatoes with you, which might be more popular than Solo Sikoa right now. Man, I like potatoes.
Could be.
But yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing that they've also illustrated, to your point, is that, Paul Heyman and CM Punk are best friends. So maybe Paul Heyman's sitting there thinking, he's not going to ask me to do something that's going to put me in a spot because he's my best friend. And he thought wrong about that,
Yeah.
He's like, oh, the favor's going to be, I'm moving next week. Can I borrow your truck?
Something like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it was instead being a really manipulative best friend. Like, what a terrible best friend. Nobody's really explored that either.
I know.
He's putting Paul Heyman, his best friend, through all this stress just to get, I guess, an advantage in this match via mind games. But it's not like Heyman ain't sitting there kicking out of finisher after finisher. That's Roman Reigns.
No, I know. And if it was a 1-on-1 between Punk and Roman, that might make a bit more sense. But you got Seth Rollins in there.
Yeah, right.
If anything, he's going to try to antagonize the relationship between the two of them, Roman and Punk. and drive wedges between them and Heyman.
I guess, Punk just sticking it to Roman. He just wants to stick it to the head guy. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to the next hot take. This one is from Bucket Dipper. Bucket Dipper says, after that promo on Raw this week, Gunther should win at WrestleMania. He has so much more character, depth as champion, better worker, can cut better promos than Jey Uso. Hashtag no yeet.
Wow.
Should Gunther win at WrestleMania?
No. Listen, I like Gunther a lot.
Boy,
one of my favorite wrestlers.
Yeah, yeah. Just stop right there real quick. This is a pretty big turnaround for you. Where you were what was the Gunther match last year?
Cody.
Sami
You should have beat Cody.
Sami Zayn.
Yeah. You should have beat Sami last year, too. Listen, in my heart, do I want Gunther to lose ever? Absolutely not.
Okay.
But in terms of just like basic pro wrestling storytelling, Gunther should absolutely lose this. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, 1,000%. And I think people always kind of shortchange Jey when it comes to the character stuff. Like, it's a situation where yeet isn't just a catchphrase, yeet. Like, it means something to Jey.
People think that Jey Uso is LA Knight.
Yeah. But you're discounting everything he went through before he got to this point, but everything he went through informs where he is now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really do. That being, and I understand what you're saying with what you're saying in terms of, telling a pro wrestling story. But boy, oh boy, it'd be cool if Gunther did win because he got to do the big bad. It's a triple.
Yeah.
You got to ask yourself, and this is for conversation. I don't think in a million years Gunther's going to win at Mania. You got to ask yourself, number one, knowing that Triple H is a huge Gunther guy, big Gunther guy.
Knowing that Triple H is a huge fan of himself as well.
And knowing that Triple H was not opposed to doing the big bad thing and winning. Like, Triple H would do that back in the day. Look at the Booker T situation. Like, he was fine doing that. There is a reason they call it the Reign of Terror. He'd do this shit all the time. He'd get the big bad thing in, and then he would still end up winning. So, like, if he applies that philosophy to what could be considered his modern day proxy, maybe he does the big bad thing with Jimmy just for a big Gunther swerve at WrestleMania, and then Jey and Jimmy have to figure all that out. Like, Oos, you couldn't get the job done at WrestleMania. The fact that Gunther's, I don't know what it's going to be, 3-0, 4-0, whatever it's going to be.
He'd be 4-0 if he beat Jey at WrestleMania.
He said that, but didn't Jey said he'd be 0-3?
I think he said he is 0-3.
Oh, okay. All right. I feel like...
I feel like that argument could potentially hold more credence if Gunther hadn't already just beat Jey right before the Rumble, pretty much.
Yeah, that you really got to wonder. You really got to wonder, is Jey Gunther what they were going to do when they decided to do that at Saturday night's main event? Hey, maybe Gunther just has Jey's number.
Could be.
Jey's got to look elsewhere.
Guess so. You're like, man, I really should have picked Cody, huh?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, it has nothing to do with the promo that Gunther dropped. It's the story beats and how the story's being told. All that stuff can be totally true, that Gunther has more character depth. You can make that case, I guess. He's a better worker. You could definitely make that case. Yeah. Cut better promo. Subjective, you can make that case. Crowd loves Jey, but you can make all those cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
And still have Gunther lose. Mm-hmm. Just because he's better doesn't mean he can't lose. It just means that whatever. Like the other guy won. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be the guy who is, in your opinion, better. You look at that arena, they're not going to say the same thing.
Mm-mm. Nope. Nope.
Let's go to this next one here. This actually has more to do with that first one here. Jaden Cole says Paul Heyman should walk out of WrestleMania alone. He should find a new talent who could benefit more from his services than the three superstars fighting over him at Mania. I've seen this where some people have suggested Paul Heyman should Align himself should be the new advocate for Braun Breaker.
Yeah, there are several people on this very thread that mentioned that, yeah.
To elevate Braun Breaker to the main event scene. You know, I mean, I don't see a lot of people advocating for Brock Lesnar. Maybe they're just thinking that that's more realistic, that Brock's not going to be there anymore, which is probably the case.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anybody else on the roster. I don't think Braun Breaker would be a great fit. I don't know if there's anybody else on the roster that would be that guy. They've had a really hard time. Here's the thing about Heyman. He's not the kind of guy that you put, well,
I mean, his pairing with Roman was kind of an outlier in terms of being successful outside of, obviously, Heyman's time with Brock. You know, because they put him with Cesaro, didn't work. Put him with Curtis Axel, didn't work.
That's what I was going for.
Ryback as well, didn't work.
Whenever they try to use Heyman to make a person,
mm-hmm.
and you mentioned Brock, I feel like Brock would have been fine without Heyman in the first place. I really do. I think Heyman added a lot to Brock.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Brock would have been fine without him. But yeah, whenever you try to put Heyman with people, I remember I always liked the suggestion that he should go with Ronda Rousey. That actually would have made sense because it's sort of like if you view her as kind of a female Brock, similar backgrounds in the MMA stuff, having success. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would have to be somebody who already has kind of a main event aura. I'll give you an example: a heel Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not that I think they'd ever do that in a million years, but a heel Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman. I can kind of see that.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's history between Heyman and Dusty.
Oh yeah, well, the ECW. I mean, we saw that in the promo.
Yeah, the ECW. Yeah. So I mean, like, there's a lot they could do with storyline wise.
Yeah,
and I think that's what it would take for any alliance between Heyman and anybody.
Heyman
that's one of the reasons that
success that's already there.
Yeah, but like in Roman's case, obviously Roman feuded forever with Brock.
Yeah.
And so there was a familiarity there, and it was shocking to see Heyman sitting there next to Roman that first time.
Yeah.
Because of that history.
Roman was already a multi-time champion, WrestleMania main eventer. He's the face of the company guy. Mm-hmm. So it's just taking that success and then enhancing it and taking it to that next level. And so, yeah, I mean, it's very, very few people that you would do that with. I mean, the thing about Heyman and Roman is also what Heyman did have an extensive period of time extensive history with the Bloodline already. I mean, you know, he was a manager for the what do they call them? But, you know, so Heyman really works as a symbol of the marquee as opposed to, let's get this guy who's got a shit track record and try to build him up using Heyman. It does not a great track record there.
No, there's not. There's not.
Yeah. Before we continue on with our next hot take, we have a sponsor this week, so we're going to talk about them right now.
Let's do it. Let's take a quick break to get a word from our sponsor, NordVPN. So, not only do we use NordVPN to watch SmackDown during WWE's recent European tour, but Steve, am I correct when I say that you've been using NordVPN to watch SmackDown every week? Is that correct? Yeah?
That's correct. SmackDown and NXT, man. I decided to cut the cord a few weeks back, and with NordVPN, I can change my virtual location so I can watch SmackDown every Friday night, NXT every Tuesday. Well, actually, I watch it on Wednesdays. NordVPN is also the fastest VPN in the world, so that means no buffering or lagging. It also stops my ISP from throttling my bandwidth. No throttling no way.
Throttling no way. And guess what, Steve?
Yes.
NordVPN also keeps your private online data, like your passwords and bank details, safe and offers premium cybersecurity for the price of a cup of coffee a month. Their threat protection feature keeps you safe from viruses, malware, and phishing sites. Plus, one NordVPN account can be used on up to 10 devices.
To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/raw. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box. All right, let's get to our next hot take here.
Hot take.
It's from Zero, who says Triple H deserves to have a lot of video packages because he's done a lot. I just mentioned Survivor Series 2017, my favorite Survivor Series of all time, when Triple H basically made it the Triple H show. WrestleMania 32, of course, when he made Roman Reigns really fight for the crowd's affection by crotch chopping all the time. In the Warrior match at WrestleMania, that was a big deal. 13 seconds. You can have video
it was a really quick
packages.
loss for Triple H.
Oh yeah, big L, but to a legend. Helped make the Warrior, be honest with you. All sorts of other things that he did.
Terrorizing.
Well, okay, I'm surprised. I am actually legitimately surprised. Well, there's a SmackDown coming up.
Yeah.
The SmackDown one's got to be
NXT. It's got to be being executive and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's got to be his. Yeah.
Unless he's getting inducted now as a performer down the line. Paul Levesque gets inducted into the Hall of Fame.
So my only thing about that is because they've just done a video package about how the creative mind executes those entrances.
But it was as a performer. It was every single one was when he was still an active wrestler.
Oh, they didn't show. Come on, they showed a shot of him directing an entrance, didn't they?
I don't think they showed a shot of him directing an entrance current day. No.
Wow. Okay.
I think it was all about.
Maybe you're right about
Triple H really likes his entrances.
Okay. Yeah. Well, remains to be seen. I feel like, is he going in as Triple H or Paul Triple H Levesque? What's the official word on that?
I haven't been paying it. I mean, you think as many times we've seen a video package about him, it had been just like burned into my synapses at this point, but I have not really been paying that close attention.
Oh, man. He has done a lot. He's done a lot. He's done everything, do the curtain call one. You guys should do a curtain call one.
They should do a curtain call one.
I mean, that's kind of an important thing, too.
It is. That is a pretty major thing.
So, yeah. No, you got to figure they're going to do one. Okay, well, if they don't do one, let's say you're right, and they hold off on the executive. What last video package are they going to do for him?
It's a match against Batista.
The latest one?
The very last one.
The last one?
Batista's last match.
Give me what I want. Give me what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's as arbitrary as that's like more important than his King of the Ring '97 one.
Yeah, I know.
What was that all about?
They might do like a slightly extended kind of recap one.
They might do one just on the number of championships he's won.
That's true. They could do that.
Like what he's a 14, I think.
14-time world champion. Yeah.
They could do that.
They could do that.
Yeah, they could do that.
They could do that. I'm surprised they didn't do a video package for each championship win.
I mean, they had the number of packages commensurate with that. Basically,
They've
done
did.
A lot of them. They've done
a lot of them. Hot take here from Atomic Dude. Says if the pandemic didn't take place, WrestleMania would still be a one-night event. I don't know. Meltzer seemed pretty sure in 2017 by 2020 it would be 2 nights. It would have to be.
So for those of you who might have watched our our Guess the Meltzer Star review retro thing, we did one on WrestleMania 33 from 2017. And in the newsletter, Meltzer had said, basically, he did an old Nostradamus and said, these things are too long and it makes sense for them eventually go to 2 nights. I don't know if it's necessarily been like on the record as to had they ever considered going back to one night after pandemic, and if it was ever on the table before pandemic. You got to think that it probably was at least an idea heading even before pandemic happened for them to come up with the idea at pandemic. But certainly that year they were not going to do, they were just going to do a one night show originally.
Yeah.
I gotta think in this, it's at least a 50-50 that we'd still be with these obnoxiously long one night shows.
Oh man.
When did Wrestle Kingdom go multiple nights?
Was that 2020?
Was it pandemic? I thought that was before pandemic.
Well, that would have been right before. I mean, it would have been January 2020.
Was it? Yeah, maybe it was 2020.
Here, I'll check.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think at some point that conversation would have kind of bubbled up.
Yeah, it was 2020.
It was
the first 2-night Wrestle Kingdom.
Pre-pandemic then.
Yep.
You got to figure that conversation probably would have percolated. You know, I mean, there was that phase, 2 years ago, or that reporting that WWE wanted to get all their premium live events into stadiums.
Mm-hmm. And they tried that with Money in the Bank in Vegas, I believe. They didn't sell enough tickets, so they had to move it to the arena. Yeah.
Given that their philosophy over the past couple of years has been more, they probably would have. You would think they probably would have arrived to that conclusion naturally.
At some point, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a 50-50. I think that it's entirely possible they would have kept on doing one nights if it wasn't for pandemic.
8-hour WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's blows,
25
man.
matches.
Absolutely blows.
Parsath here with a hot take.
Parsath
says the downside of the greatness of the Bloodline stories, you notice moments that lack continuity more now. Before we just accepted it because that's just how WWE was. Now I find myself questioning why Jey is fine with Roman taking his Mania main event.
So, Jey Uso, given when we talked about him a little bit already, but given that Jey Uso is one thing that Jey Uso is not is blinded by ambition. He almost has I'm just happy to be here, and I scratch and claw for everything I get. I mean, that one promo after the Royal Rumble was kind of like a bit of imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's in line with his character to not go around demanding what honestly kind of would be maybe. I mean, I get that he should feel entitled to the main event because he won the Rumble.
Yep.
But there's also that thing of like, man, I won the Rumble. I'm going to get a world title shot. I don't really need to ask for anything more.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I don't see the character of Jey Uso demanding a bus or a private plane.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. The frills, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the WrestleMania main event, the case could be made that asking for that would be a bit more in line. I mean, that's what Roman's all about.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of a diva, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Jay's not really that guy, you know? He scraps. And he gets, the crowd lifts him up, and he comes off as a genuine guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's in line with his character not to demand that kind of thing, you know?
Now, if you're talking continuity issues, you can talk a lot about, or plot holes for that matter, the build-up to War Games as it related to the Bloodline reuniting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff was rushed, just breezed by.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy demanding an apology from Roman for Jey, never happening. Everybody was cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was a lot of issues in that build that I found way more irritating than anything related to Jey not getting the main event now.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and revisit. I remember thinking the same thing. Like, obviously, I'll put it this way. I think there was a lot more drama there to mine.
Absolutely.
I'd have to go back and see if anybody necessarily acted out of character, like in terms of that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see, like, I know it's Roman and Roman gets what Roman wants, but there's also the matter of like, wouldn't Jey be mad at like Nick Khan or Triple H? Like given that they're the ones who decide who's main eventing and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So you get into weird territory there, you know?
Yeah. Matt Williams here with a hot take says Lucha Underground was the most entertaining promotion of the last 20 years.
Boy, oh boy, people love Lucha Underground. I know you watched an entire season, didn't you?
I watched all of season 2, and I really enjoyed it. I appreciate when a wrestling company endeavors, and it might not be a success, to change the visual language of pro wrestling. And that's one of the things Lucha Underground did. I never really watched TNA when they did this, but I love that they tried the fly on the wall stuff. It's something different.
Mm-hmm.
I thought a lot of the storylines of Lucha Underground was a lot of fun. Thought the presentation was good. Mm-hmm. Some of the backstories were really interesting and different. Mm-hmm. The wrestling was always really good. And I think how many massive stars right now wrestled in Lucha Underground.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a lot to like about Lucha Underground revisiting. I think it lasted 3 or 4 seasons. Mm-hmm. It's just a bummer. It probably cost a lot to make, and it was on a relatively small cable network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, wrestling's expensive to produce.
It is. Yeah.
So, even if they do the batch tapings where they're, there at the temple for a week shooting the entire season's worth to minimize costs as best they can, it's still expensive.
Well, yeah, and plus the way they filmed everything. It's not like they're just, grabbing cameras going backstage. They're getting coverage, and it looked nice.
But to do all that and get, what, $200,000, $300,000 per episode?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people in terms of, like, because, I mean, I'm obviously aware of it. I've seen plenty of it. But I can absolutely understand, because I think, weren't the episodes like an hour long each? Mm-hmm. I feel like with such a that degree of scripting out their stories, I can understand why there would be a significant fan base or audience segment that's like, oh man, really into the stories, because they're scripted like per season, like in a very episodic manner, as opposed to traditional pro wrestling, WWE and AEW, which is like an ongoing, never-ending thing.
Yeah. Lucha Underground, I think they had 20 to 30 episode seasons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah, man, I can understand this take. One day I'd like to go back and visit it. I think it might still be on Tubi. I don't know.
Yeah, it was on Tubi for a while.
It was on Tubi for a while. Yeah. Let's move on now to Shane Canavan, who says, hot take, Vic Joseph is the best play-by-play commentary out there right now.
I think I might agree with this. Vic is really good.
I like Vic.
I like Vic a lot. I'm trying to think.
So you got Vic, Michael Cole, Joe Tess. Those are
that'd be.
And then over in AEW, you got Excalibur.
Well, Ian Riccaboni too.
Ian Riccaboni, I like a lot.
Yeah, I like Ian a lot as well. He's really good.
I like Ian. The thing, I mean, the great thing about Vic is that, like, you don't really notice him. And I think that's a strong thing when it's somebody who tells the story but isn't really noticed.
And seems like, based on the various broadcast or commentary partners he's had, it seems like it's easy for him to build a rapport with whoever he's sitting next to at commentary.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And there's chemistry.
There is, yeah.
Which isn't easy to do.
Yeah. But yeah, when you have as varied as partners as he's had, like with Corey Graves and Booker T, there's a lot going on there for both those guys. So yeah, I don't know. I'd put him up there. I'll be honest with you, like the 4 guys that we named, I don't know if there's one that's heads and tails above the other. They all do their job pretty darn well. I'm not a fan of Excalibur. He makes me anxious.
Yeah, he doesn't let things breathe when they need to breathe.
Yeah. And I'm like, would you just stop talking for a second?
Yeah.
Just a moment, please. But everybody else, they have a good pace. They've got a good grasp on the stories and all that kind of stuff. And they kind of blend in, I like
they know when to bring it up and bring it back down.
Yeah, right.
Whatever the emotional ebbs and flows are of the match, the commentary, kind of rolls with it. So
it does. Thinking about it and going over it does make me appreciate JR back in the day a lot more, because he was not an invisible guy. Mm-mm. Like he was, obviously has a very folksy way of talking. Oh man, what's going on now? This is crazy. Like, it was very reassuring. and it's hard to come by that, I think.
Well, and also when he was concerned, it's hard for you not to be concerned.
Exactly. Yeah. He just had that warm, like, oh, it's my uncle and he's upset about this, so I'm upset about it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Oh, I broke him in half. Oh, man.
By God.
Bug out.
Little Josh here with the hot take says after rewatching WrestleMania 9 in full for the first time in years, inspired to watch because of new Peacock documentary, I don't think it's anywhere near as bad of a show as the vast majority of the IWC says it is. I actually enjoyed the pay-per-view almost, but not quite as much as I did as a 9-year-old watching it live back in April 1993.
So you said you watched like the first half of the Peacock documentary?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that so far?
Like, I appreciate that it was a massive undertaking. And they had to build the stadium up in the parking lot and dress it to look like the Roman Coliseum. What I didn't know was about Vince's involvement in promoting the boxing match in 89 or whatever it was. I didn't know anything about that. That was interesting. And that was how he kind of forged that relationship with Caesar's Palace. You know, that kind of stuff I found interesting. And it's interesting kind of time capsule to have that backstage stuff. And everybody's kind of leery of participating because, you know, wrestlers and the wrestling industry is very protective of itself.
That was the Undertaker stuff was the most interesting there. Yeah. Because, boy, you know, they tried to frame it like everybody was weary or was leery, whatever. And they would capture faces and nobody really batted much of an eye.
The Undertaker was the most.
The Undertaker did.
Yeah.
The Undertaker, he almost looked panicked.
Yeah, he did.
What is this for?
But like Macho Man was just acting like him.
You know? What's going on? How you doing? It's a camera. Yeah. And then Bret's like, what's this for? Here. It was interesting. I think one thing that was interesting to me about it was Bret and watching his sleepy ass press conference promo.
Yeah.
And it was so perfectly juxtaposed with modern day Bret saying, I barely could handle the pressure of being the champion. And, you know, I'd wake up and I'd be like, yeah, I'm pinching myself because I'm still champion. You know, it is real. And, you know, people who say, oh, belt's just a prop. It's not just a prop. It's, you know, there's a lot of pressure with it. And it's interesting to see it almost the way they frame it, especially when you're getting up to the Hogan stuff, the way they frame it, and especially the executives, you know, these Vegas executive guys, they're not going to give one shit about like the work rate stuff. They understood that Hulk Hogan was the name in pro wrestling. Now, they might have been out of touch with what the modern pro wrestling fan cared about in 93, but in 93, it's like, I can understand you're not going to want to necessarily cater to those people. You want to sell tickets. And they were having a hard time doing that at first.
They were.
And so for them to be all about Hulk Hogan, and for Bret to be admittedly like, yeah, I was under. I mean, he didn't say this, but the subtext was I was underwhelming as champion because I was nervous. Mm-hmm. You know, you see him up there in that lame promo of his. Yeah, you know, this is great. I'm like, you're the WrestleMania main event.
I know.
Like, what are you doing here?
I know.
And it does make you go back, and it's not just because they weren't really focusing on the negatives of WrestleMania, although they did make fun of the Giant Gonzalez, you know, and within the context of it being a transitionary period, they talked about that.
Yeah.
But you can almost understand why they did what they did at the end of WrestleMania 9. For some, you know, because the crowd popped huge. The arena crowd popped to the Coliseum, whatever. Popped, you know.
They're in the parking lot, yeah.
They're in the parking lot. They popped huge for Hogan. And we can look back at it now and be like, yeah, creatively speaking, this sucked. Didn't make any sense. And a month later, they drew the fewest number of people for a pay-per-view. So it didn't even work in terms of like, you know, drawing more people to the product.
Mm-hmm.
But in the moment, they almost kind of convince you it wasn't a terrible idea.
Well, you can see the rationale behind it, you know?
Yeah, right.
You can understand the reasoning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, from a creative and financial standpoint, didn't necessarily work out.
Right.
But you can understand, well, ticket sales are bad for this WrestleMania. What's going to help that? Bringing Hogan in. What's going to potentially, you know, get some press for us and potentially bolster whatever sagging financials we have? Putting that title back on Hogan.
If they had done Bret versus Yokozuna rematch at King of the Ring, I find it really difficult to believe that they would outperform Hogan versus Yokozuna at King.
I think that was just the state of the company at the time.
You're right. Yeah. I think it was. And so I thought that stuff was really interesting. And then yeah. So do you believe Hulk Hogan, which regardless of what that question should always be no. That answer should always be no, regardless of what I'm talking about.
No.
The black eye.
I don't know. Again, the default position is I'm hesitant to believe anything that comes out of his mouth. You have Brutus there backing up his story.
Which he would.
Yeah.
You have Jimmy Hart backing it up.
Which?
He probably would. They're all on the same page.
Yeah.
which they might not have been if it was a lie.
I mean, here's the one thing. I don't know much about, I took physics with you as a senior in high school.
I think I know what you're about to say, and I think it's my point as well. Go ahead.
Where like the 700-pound jet ski comes flying at his face.
Right.
And you have Beefcake, who takes a knee to the face, and his face is destroyed.
Right, exactly.
They have to do a complete facial reconstruction for him.
Yeah.
From taking a knee to the face because someone was parasailing.
Yeah.
And so you got this jet ski, which is probably going at some outrageous speed. Even just clipping Hogan, you think it would do more damage than just breaking an orbital bone and busting him open. But I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's not an unreasonable conclusion to make, that he would have been decapitated.
Maybe.
He would have been annihilated.
Yeah.
If it was, now, it could be that the details of the skiing accident were embellished in true
entirely
Hogan
possible.
fashion.
Entirely possible. Like the Sea-Doo was landed, it was stationary.
Yeah.
Hogan stepped on a shell, and was like hobbling on one foot and banged his face into it.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. Because of course the alternate is Macho Man. Here's the thing about the broken orbital though. It's like, and I understand people out there can punch really hard. You catch somebody flush like that, you can do that kind of damage. But it did seem like that the damage done did seem to be pretty not excessive, but pretty significant for it to be a punch in a fight.
So it needs to be somewhere between a punch and getting blasted in the face with a jet ski. It's somewhere in between that is what we're agreeing on, right?
Yeah, yes. That's what I'm thinking. So I kind of feel it's probably not a punch, but I like yours where he steps on something sharp and he falls and he hits himself on the ski or whatever it is. I think that's entirely likely. Now, getting back to Little Josh's hot take here.
Obviously, one's entertainment of wrestling show is subjective. So, Little Josh, you enjoy WrestleMania 9, more power to you.
Well, I mean, the thing is, here's the thing about WrestleMania 9, that the one sin that it doesn't commit, I don't think it's boring. There's enough going on there that's like, this is weird. It's funny. It's goofy. Who the hell's going to come out next? The case that they made about, did you get to the doink part?
No, I haven't got to that point yet.
Sam Roberts was loving the doink stuff because they had the second doink.
Yeah.
And he was like, my dad was watching with me because I think he said he was 9. Sam was 9 at the time. And he said, when the second doink showed up, I hear my dad said, that's genius. And he was like, my dad wasn't a wrestling fan. And so, yeah, when you think about it in that context, it's like, it's goofy as hell. Yeah. They were just doing anything they could to keep. I mean, if you look at the roster, there's a reason why the King of the Ring drew like 5,000 people.
Yeah. So
it's a ridiculous show, but it's not boring. It's like, dude, you try to watch like WrestleMania 2.
That's boring.
That shit's hard to sit through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at the very least, it is. Even not just the documentary, but WrestleMania 9 itself is a really interesting time capsule. It really is.
Got a hot take here from Shotgun Sean. Says the Death Riders are the Nickelback of wrestling.
So what would you qualify as the Nickelback of anything? I think probably loved by a lot of people who you've never met.
Yeah. Something, like in this case, a musical act who's loved by a lot of people. I've never met any of those people, and I wonder why they like them.
Doesn't this hot take make perfect sense then? Because if what they talk about...
Oh, in terms of the TV numbers and such?
That their metrics, AEW's internal metrics and WBD's internal metrics are that the Death Riders have been a success for the company in terms of ratings, viewership, et cetera, you got to ask, who are these people?
Yeah. And why do they like this?
And why do they like this? Give me that photograph. I want to see it.
Okay, so maybe it is an apt analogy.
I don't know who these people are. A90 here with a hot take. Oh, I love this one. This is kind of, I think we're heading into our self-indulgence
this is definitely
here.
The last couple, usually that phase of the show.
A90 says, match ratings should be whole numbers only. If you're giving quarter stars, you don't have a 5-star rating system, my guy. You've got a 20-star one. He says 3.25 is a far more egregious rating to me than 6 or even 7 stars.
Well, 3.25 would be 10.
So yeah,
right? No, it'd be
3.25 would be 3 times 4 plus 1.
That'd be 13,
1.
right?
Yeah.
13. Sorry, 13. My
well,
math wrong there.
Yeah.
13.
If each notch is a star. You start diving into the question of what is a star and why is it 5 is kind of like this magical number.
See, when I consider it, like growing up and watching or reading film reviews.
Sure.
It was star ratings or whatever, like the local newspaper here, one of the local newspapers here used like popcorns in various stages of happiness. Was their ratings.
The SAC News and Review.
Yeah. And if you got the popcorn so happy, the popcorn's exploding out of the top of his head, you knew you were in
shouldn't
for
that be his brain?
A hell of a cinematic ride.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just the local in the Sacramento Bee here did stars, and it was at the least half-star increments.
Yeah.
So that's just what I grew up with. That's what I've come to assume is standard. It's what Meltzer's done. In the world of wrestling?
The most popular rating system, maybe in all of cinema, is binary. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
Did they do thumbs in the middle?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think they did either.
But I feel like Ebert, at least when in his writing.
Yeah, they would, yeah.
Wasn't just a thumbs up, thumbs down.
I think it was up to 4, I think. 4 stars. But I don't remember if it was incremental. I don't think that it was, but maybe it was. Maybe it was half stars. Look, what you're saying is this is a system that dates back definitely decades, maybe even a century if people were writing up movies, in the golden age of Hollywood or whatever that would be considered, the 20s when talkies first started. So I don't know why they didn't start with a 20 or a 10-star rating system. I don't know why they didn't. And yes, when you think about it, it's weird that there's increments instead of whole numbers. But let me ask you this.
Sure.
If a recipe on like the side of a box calls for a cup and a half, do you scoff at it and say, give me 2 cups?
Either 1 or 2. Yeah.
It's either 1 or 2.
Because at the end of the day, if there's so many increments between your upper and lower limit, what they are in between, as long as it's consistent, it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's an ages-old thing. It makes sense to us now, but I understand this take.
All right, last one here. It's our typical early 90s music
Yep.
hot take to end the show. The Mooches here says Stone Temple Pilots better than, greater than Pearl Jam.
Oh boy. So I'll start off by saying this. Number one, I'm a bigger Stone Temple Pilots guy than you are. Number two, Pearl Jam's best work clears Stone Temple Pilots' best work.
Mm-hmm.
And Pearl Jam has more quality in their depth as well. Not to say I don't appreciate the hell out of a lot of Stone Temple Pilots stuff. I like their first 3 albums in particular. I actually really enjoy front to end on all of them.
Yeah, the first record's really good.
The first one is really good. And even like, their, Big Bang Baby on their 3rd album, I think it is. I love that song. Interstate Love Song's a great song on their 2nd one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in the 2nd album too, yeah.
I find myself, and this is such a weird nebulous thing. Maybe you can understand what I'm saying and put it into better words. I generally find myself when I pop on, I'll put it this way, when I pop on Stone Temple Pilots' 3rd album, right, which has a bunch of songs I like on it, I generally don't revisit that for years later.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I got it, it's good, it's fine.
Yeah.
Pearl Jam isn't that way. Like Pearl Jam, I can listen to, if I'm like, man, I really want to listen to Vitalogy, I'll probably listen to it throughout the week a couple times. I'll sit there a couple times and listen to it. Mm-hmm. I feel like their stuff just has more substance to it.
Maybe it's not a matter of substance or lack thereof. I know it's the emotional bond you forge with the music itself.
It could be, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I know you have very strong, visceral feelings about 10 specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And while you might enjoy and appreciate much of Stone Temple Pilots' work, that same emotional bond between yourself and the music just isn't there. You might enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were always my B team. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, they were kind of in the phase 2 of grunge era rock. They were from California. They weren't from Seattle, but they got lumped in with all that.
And I think they got unfair. Well, you can determine this, I guess, to each their own. But I know in the press, I feel like they were kind of unfairly lumped in a negative connotation.
Yeah.
I remember hearing the term Clone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
And in that first album, Scott Weiland did sound a lot like it. A lot of the songs sounded like he was trying to ape Eddie Vedder's vocal style. A lot of people were back then.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But then he started to expand on his range a bit more in the subsequent albums, and I thought he was a great vocalist.
And I think the band as a whole, expanded their range. Like the bass player, I've seen some videos of him now, and he wrote most of the songs, and he's a really good musician.
Yeah, yeah.
Like outside, I mean, he's a great bass player, but he wrote most of the songs on guitar.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And some of the chord voicings were complex compared to a lot of rock music.
Mm-hmm, sure.
So I always appreciated that about them, is that it wasn't just power chords all the time. They were trying to do something a little more harmonically interesting than just, there's nothing wrong with power chords. I like power chords too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they kind of got a bad rap, I felt like, when Core came out. Because, looking back on it now, it's a really good record. There's a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for this edition of our Hot Takes. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll see you guys around.
Goodbye.